I know, and I didn't even get home by my dog.
Are you hiding money from your partner? This week on the Extreme Personal Finance Show. Hey everyone, welcome. Welcome to episode 46 of the Extreme Personal Finance Show. My name is Chris, and joining me this week, a good friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time. I want to introduce everybody to my friend April. April, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining me for this episode on basically seeing if people are on the same page as their partner about money. This will be a it'll be an interesting conversation. But before we get rolling, I just wanted to kind of hand it over to you, like have our listeners and those in YouTube just, tell people a little bit about yourself. Who are you and why are you here?
Who am I? I am your best friend. Um, no, I'm April. I um have a marketing design background. And I've been I guess dabbling in the finance stuff. I have a very strong interest in like paying off debt and learning about becoming financially independent. I've never had like a high paying job where I was able to do that. And so I'm kind of hoping to narrow things down and maybe start working my way towards that direction right now. So,
Awesome, awesome. I know you're involved in like a lot of different like groups and like women's groups, and I remember like you were in like a finance class or something
oh,
not
I
too
did the
long
Dave
ago.
Ramsey financial
Dave,
piece.
Dave Ramsey, yeah, okay. Financial piece, got it.
Yeah.
So again, you understand some of
Yeah.
the principles, so that's cool. Yeah, right on.
Yeah. It is funny though, because like I like his the ideas behind what he does, but I also feel like there's a lot more information out there that you don't have to stick to one thing
Yeah,
completely. So
exactly. And that's
yeah.
kind of what we talk about too. Like, it's getting education from all like a whole bunch of different resources and being able to make your own educated
Hmm.
decision or plan, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, a lot of us cut our teeth on Dave Ramsey. That's like where I started, and we've talked about that. How, yeah, I was starting to pay off debt early on and that type of thing. So, well, welcome to episode 46. It's interesting because often people think that, oh, money is like the number one reason people have relationship conflict. It's actually not. It's actually number three. I
Is
actually did a
it
talk.
really?
It is, yeah. I did the talk at Camp Fi, and the number one reason people have arguments, uh, infidelity. Or no, I'm
Well,
sorry,
I mean,
infidelity.
it's a
Infidelity was
good.
number two. I think communication is number one,
Okay. Yeah, I could
and
see
then
that.
money is number three. So,
I could see that.
um, but yeah, so
I feel
money
like
can't.
communication and finances kind of go hand in
That's
hand though.
right. That's right. Well, and we're going to talk a little bit about that too, because it is really important to be transparent and open and honest. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
whole thing. So, money can be a cause of fights, arguments among couples. Money can cause conflict. And in some relationships, it can absolutely be a deal breaker,
Mhm.
but it doesn't have to be. And there are, when you and your partner are on the same page financially, it really makes relationships awesome. It can make them stronger and it can set the groundwork for a really successful and rewarding, you know, future lives for the couple.
Mhm.
And so one of the first things I wanted to kind of talk through is having both people, I guess both parties actively involved in like planning and involved in the finance discussions and answering those sometimes just way out there questions. I mean, things like, well, where do you see yourselves in 5 years or 10 years? Or
Mhm.
what are our, like, together, what are our shared goals? Or, you know, also, just having those questions like, well, what are your thoughts about budgeting or saving? And the reason why I bring this up is in making sure that we're kind of including both people is because that is the number one thing that I would have changed when I got divorced. Because when I got divorced, People have heard my story. Like I didn't know anything about our finances, right? I never paid a bill, never logged into the accounts, never balanced a checkbook. And I was just kind of like, la, 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 la. Like I didn't want to know. And that was a huge detriment to me. And I
Mhm.
would have absolutely wanted to be more actively involved into what was going on.
Yeah. I feel like I've witnessed it both ways. Like where, well, I've seen it a few different ways. I know a couple that I think they're like 45, maybe even younger than, no, they're younger than me. So they're under 40 and they retired.
Mm,
Because she was, like they don't have any kids, so that helps because they don't have like any huge expenses or anything.
sure.
They they own businesses and they just got really good at putting money away.
So
And
they were dinks, dual income, no kids.
yes, which is very helpful.
Yes.
Um, but they like just watching them, and I always thought, they had a business and then they closed it and then they did this and then they closed it and then they did this and then they closed it. And I just assumed that, the businesses weren't doing well, but I think they were like, we're doing well, so we're going to get out.
Mhm.
And it just seemed like, one thing after another. And all of a sudden they retire and they move to Vegas. I mean, you know, under 40, like who does that?
Wow.
Who is able to do that? It just blows my mind. But like that would be the kind of couple that they were
They're
on
on,
the same page from day one,
yeah, they're on the same
so they
page for
had
sure.
very similar goals to start.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and then you have the people that have no idea, have completely separate finances, have
Mhm.
no idea what the other person is spending, what the other person holds in their safe, you
Right.
know, and that's a scary thing too.
So do you think, so in your relationships, um, did you have, or do you think, I mean, one thing that has proven successful is to have those money talks kind of a regular thing. And
Hmm.
whether that's once a month, once a quarter, maybe it's once a week, um, but just to talk quickly. And again, it's not like deep dive, like agonizing, like pull out the spreadsheets, but it's at least like 10 minutes. Hey, this is what I spent.
Yeah,
Or these are the bills that are coming up, just an FYI. Or, oh, you know what? I'm going to have to get new tires for the truck in a couple months, or whatever that is.
right,
Having those conversations, just I think people avoid the conversation because they deal with money.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think avoiding it is, I feel like it's the easy way
Yeah.
because you don't want to talk about it. But I don't know. I think in my mind, because I've never actually had a relationship where it was an open conversation like that, I feel like having it would be fun. Like having, it's like
Yeah.
having a friend to talk about movies with. It's like you
Yeah.
would have a friend that you're talking about finances with and being like, hey, I have to get new tires, a new set of tires this winter for winter tires. So we need to set aside like this much money for the next 5 months. So what do we need to
Hmm.
do? You make it like a game.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Gamify. Um,
Gamify.
seriously, I mean, you got to gamify it. You got to make it fun. Absolutely. And I think when you start having those discussions more regularly,
Mhm.
did I say that right? Regularly.
Regularly.
You also develop this trust and transparency with your partner,
Yeah.
right? There are ways so you don't feel like you need to, you know, keep secret money
Hmm.
or have, a separate bank account or something like that. I
Right.
think being honest, especially about being honest about not only your income, but also about your debts and your expenses. I have a friend that, and I don't, she'll probably going to listen to this podcast, but I have a friend that, there was one thing that I remember, like some of her Venmo money was like secret money. And so I remember like there would be money they would have in their Venmo because would go to the spa or get her nails done, right? Or
Yeah.
go get her hair done or whatever. And that's what that money was for. And it wasn't shared with the spouse. It was
Right.
secret hidden money. And I remember like she was asking me about just some high level like finance questions. And I was like, well, first of all, I would come clean. And if it's important to you, it's got to be, transparent with the partner and
Hmm.
understand, okay, let's budget. for those things, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, so having hidden money, secret money, it's so crazy. Like I learned it was so crazy. I was fortunate enough to speak on a panel back at FinCon 2021, and the panel was called The Dark Side of Couples and Money.
Oh,
And it was so
there is a dark
crazy.
side.
Dude, I had no idea. Like, I learned so much. I mean, that there is so much lying, hiding, financial infidelity is such a real thing. And I think once you get on that road, it can just be a slippery slope into, well, what
Yeah.
else are they hiding kind of a
Well,
thing.
and then there's the financial abuse too. So I mean, like you
Oh,
have the infidelity, but then you have the abuse where like somebody is controlling the money and only allowing the
sure.
spouse to spend a certain amount of money, and that's a scary thing too.
Absolutely. 100%. And so, yeah, it's, having a strong financial partnership built on
Hmm.
honesty and transparency is huge. And
It
so,
is. Yeah.
um, man, and I remember that panel. There was someone on the panel um, that she was in the military and she was deployed. And
Oh,
while she was deployed, her husband like opened up credit cards in her name and her social and racked up
what?
like $80,000 in debt.
No.
And when she got back, you know, he left and got divorced or whatever. I mean, she was like strapped. It was her debt. Like, I know it drove me I was like, you got to be kidding me. I don't know who would ever do that. It drives me crazy.
It blows my mind that there's people out there that are that horrible,
I know, right?
like that deceitful. It just,
So let me ask you this. So, like, regardless of if you join finances, like we talked about Dave Ramsey a little bit, and Dave
mhm,
Ramsey is all about becoming one, joining the finances, all that
sure.
stuff. I used to think that way. I mean, when I was married, we had everything was together. We joined all of our finances. Um, Nowadays, I don't necessarily think that I'm on. I think if you can be transparent and have like a single dashboard
Hmm.
to see everything, then I guess it's fine because you want to have. I don't want to sound like doom and gloom, but like, what happens if something does go south?
Right.
And you do need to leave an abusive relationship or whatever. Like you got to have your own credit card and your own money,
Right.
right? Stuff like that.
Well, and even, I mean, even as people age, there's a lot of stipulations on, say you got into a car accident and you're paraplegic and you have to go be in a nursing home.
Mm,
Like if your money is in a joint account, they can take all of that.
wow.
So and it obviously depends on the state, but I
Yep.
mean like, I'm talking to my neighbor across the street and she can't even sell her house right now because if she sells her house because it's paid off, if she sells her house, all the money will go to the nursing home for her husband.
Mm,
So I mean like there's certain things where and it's only because the name is in or the house is in both of their names.
right, right.
And so there's so many weird things like, and so that's why I say like when I listen to Dave Ramsey, I have to listen with a grain of salt because
Yep.
there's so many laws right now that, so many things have changed that if you're not careful
Hmm.
and protect yourself, even if, it's a great relationship, it's a perfect relationship, you still have to protect yourself
Right, right.
from both sides. I mean, it's like basically a prenup and just knowing going in, like, this is what has to be.
Yeah. So I think, if you can be together as partners with the finances, right? Making sure you're honest about not only your income, your debts, your expenses, and make those financial decisions together rather than
Yeah.
alone. I remember I remember I had to, gosh, this really ages me. I can't remember what year it was, but it was the year that the titanium PowerBook G4 came out, and it was the fastest freaking laptop on the planet. And I paid like $3,600 for this, like the best freaking Apple laptop you could buy. But
Oh, what was that? I think I had one of those.
I had to be very convincing to my wife at the time that I needed this laptop. Um, and sometimes, here's the thing. So sometimes when things get really hairy, when things get like, let's say, let's say you do have situations where, you are kind of, I don't want to say, maybe you are having some arguments about certain things, right? Maybe it's some spending, maybe it's your goals, maybe it's retirement, like whatever. And, things are getting a little bit, there's some conflict there. Sometimes it's okay to get a neutral third party involved.
Yeah.
Because if you get, financial decisions, absolutely, well, I shouldn't say that. Discussions can get emotional, right? They get
Yeah.
heated and you don't want to start arguing with your partner and that type of thing.
Right.
So seeking advice from maybe a financial advisor
Hmm.
can help because they're going to look at it unbiased. They're going to look
Right.
at the numbers. They're not going to have the emotional investment that you're going to have.
The attachment. Yeah.
Yep. So they can certainly help guide you along the way,
Yeah.
which is pretty rad.
And so, like, I used to think everything had to be together.
Okay.
Like, I had that philosophy, like, well,
Yeah,
two become one. That's just how it is. It's like I had that Dave Ramsey philosophy before I even knew Dave Ramsey.
sure.
Um, but now, like my most recent relationship, we kept everything separate. And then we just, I went through the bills and I said, okay, this is half of everything that, you partake in the
Mhm.
house. And so then he basically just paid his half of the bills. It's hard because then, when things don't work out, then everything is still in my name,
Mhm.
which is fine for me, but not for him because then he's basically got 2 years of nothing, except his credit card bills.
Right.
And so it's like it's a good thing and a bad thing. But I think it worked out better that way. But I also feel like there may have been a little bit of resentment because, he would watch me spend money on things and be like, okay, but you just said like you didn't want to spend this money on this type of thing at the grocery store, but you just order something from Amazon,
Right.
and then I sit there and I'm listening to him talk about, well, I couldn't afford to get this or this or this. And then all of a sudden he's, ordering random things or getting, looking at buying a new truck. And it's like, what?
Right.
You know?
Exactly. So I think, and that's why I think if you are open and honest about all of those things, whether it's Amazon spending, how much you spend on DoorDash to
Yeah.
saving for a new truck, like those are discussions that we should be comfortable having on
Hmm.
a more regular basis.
And I think if you have that, it doesn't matter if the finances are together or separate because you're being honest about everything that you're spending anyway.
I think so. I think one of the big things where I have to get better at too is when you're having those discussions is to be more present and truly listen, right?
Yeah.
You need to understand what is important to your spouse or to your partner.
Hmm.
Maybe they are a fitness buff, they love biking, and that Peloton membership is really important to them.
Right.
And me, I like pointy guitars. So I would,
Did you say pointy?
yeah, they
Pointy
got to be pointy.
guitars. Pointy guitars.
Oh,
Okay.
my pointy guitar isn't here. The only guitar I have here, this one's not pointy, but I
I
have,
mean, it's got points on it.
yeah. But actually, I just discovered that I'm gonna look in getting, I think a new solar guitar. It's a brand. It was two other brands that like I think came together a handful of years ago. I don't know too much about them. I know there are some artists that I listen to that have them, but anyway. So
You have a
guitar number,
Lego guitar in your background?
I do. It's a Lego guitar. It's pretty
I've
awesome.
seen that in the store, and that's awesome that you have it on your shelf.
Yeah, my daughter got me that for like Father's Day. And the cool thing,
Nice. Go,
like
Kaylee. Oh, look at that.
yeah, in the amp, the cool thing, like you can actually open this up and it's got like
It's
all
got
the
buttons in
tubes.
there.
It's got the tubes and stuff in there. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But yeah, so guitar number 5 might be in the card. Um, cool. Well, but no, that's the thing is I think being better with I don't know, like I don't want to be like all like woo woo, but like active listening, right? And I know
Mhm.
one thing that I learned in therapy was like, when we're having the conversation to have me truly almost recite back what your
Mhm.
partner says
Yeah,
to make sure that you understand what they're saying.
right.
And I do need to get better at that because I think that then creates that open dialogue and it makes sure
Hmm.
that you're always on the same page. And I
Right.
think, and I think it's important too to like make sure that those communication lines are open for all sorts of things because,
Hmm.
while we talk about maybe it's just, DoorDash or whatever, but if you're in it to win it and you're going to be together for the next 30 years or 40 years or until you croak,
Okay.
then can I not say that?
No, I said it at the exact same time.
Ribbit, ribbit. So here's what do you call what do you that's so bad. What do you call a deaf gynecologist?
Oh God, what?
A lip reader. Okay, so that's right. We got the explicit badge. It's fine. It's fine. So here's the thing. So um where was I going? I totally lost track. What was I gonna say? I can't freaking
You're talking about living forever and croaking.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think so. We were talking about keeping those lines of communication open, but I think it is those long term things too. I mean, making sure you're on the same page with regards to retire regards. I always say that that's wrong grammar. With regard to retirement, investing, long
Mhm.
term goals as well. Like I just talked to a buddy today, and he basically was talking about his partner is going to be retiring early
Mhm.
and they're looking at long-term plans of where they're relocating and all that stuff. And that's because they have those open discussions all the time.
Right.
And it's really important. And it's super hard to have those discussions. That's the funny thing, man. Okay. Okay. So I was talking to another friend of mine and I was on this a date a while back and I'm just like, I don't really know. And my friend was like, "Well, just just go on dates, just have fun." And I think that's where I'm broke because, I'm broken. That's why I'm broken because it's like I can't just go have fun and just date without any sort of long-term thought or commitment.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm freaking 51 years old. I don't have much
But,
time left.
I mean, do you talk about burial plots on your first dates?
No, but I run a credit check though.
Do you really?
No, I don't.
God.
Uh, but I do think that money shouldn't be a source of division in a relationship.
No.
I think money can be an awesome tool to build a life that both you and your partner want. You can
Hmm.
join forces. And if you stay transparent and prioritize what both of you want,
Hmm.
you can really create a great relationship as you move forward. I think it's really important. And eventually you're going to have to have those conversations and that's the killer part of being single and dating.
Yeah.
Is it the third date? Is that when you bring it up? Like what? So that's the thing. Okay. Okay, so we're talking about
Maybe
like
maybe it's more like just a friendly conversation, like, hey, when do you plan on retiring?
well
And if
so
they laugh, then you know you're in trouble.
well and that's the thing. So like one time, okay, a couple scenarios. Like one time I was on a date and she was a little bit older than me and we met for happy hour and we're talking and I don't can't even remember how we got on the subject because I was still working at the time, and I said, "Well, I hope to retire early," and it was like I could tell right away because she's like, "Oh, I'm never gonna retire. I'm gonna work until I die," and I was like, "Because you want to?" No, 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 no. Because she's like, "Well, I'm still paying student loans," and she was like 55 years old, right? And then so I knew I'm like right away. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can have a great meal and enjoy a good date, but we're just not aligned on
Yeah.
and maybe that's really short-sighted of me. I don't know, but
No, I don't think so because I feel like at our age, I mean, like if you were 19 or 20
our
and you
age, come on. I'm older than you.
barely, come on. If you
You're
were
just a
19 or
pup.
20 having that conversation and they were like, oh, I'm going to work till I'm dead. I don't know anything about retiring.
Right.
There's time to change that
Sure.
mindset.
Sure.
But somebody in their 50s, if they don't have the mindset or have any knowledge of what it's going to look like to retire or have money to retire, I mean, you're going to be floating that boat for a
Right.
while.
I mean, there was one that she was a little bit younger than me, and we dated for several weeks, and it was then that I started to have some of those discussions, and I remember it kind of started to snowball because it was like, well, I do have some student debt. She wouldn't tell me how much.
Oh boy.
She's like, well, because I started to go down this like nursing program, but I never finished. And I'm like, that's fine. It happens to everybody. Like, no big
Hmm.
deal, right? Then it was like, oh, and then she like leased a car when she was like 23 and then like, never made the payments. And then like they repoed the car and she owed like a bunch of money. And it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, like what is this? And then it just started going on, on and on
Yeah.
after that, the credit card debt, all the other things.
Yeah.
And it's fine if you're willing to just accept and understand that it's going to take some changing to,
Hmm. But then you
but
also
it,
have to make sure that they're ready to change.
yeah, and it's not my like, I don't know. That's always the question. Like people are like, well, would you be willing to carry until they get up to speed and stuff, right? Like, would I be willing to like pay some debt or some of the other things for my partner while they're paying down their debt, paying off their credit card or whatever? And I think for the right person, obviously, but I just, I don't know. How do we get down this freaking path? um, but anyway, so hey, April, the key takeaway, I think, for this, making sure that you're on the same page as your partner is really sitting down often, work together on some sort of cadence, right? Whether that's weekly, monthly, quarterly, and just revisit financial goals, adjust
Hmm.
them as needed. I think talking about any sort of financial concerns, right? If all of a sudden I am that pointy guitar number six, hey, maybe you should cool it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And then, keep each other accountable for those goals too. I think it's
Right.
also really important to celebrate those little wins, right? If
Mhm.
you're paying off the credit card or whatever, you're going to save up for that next vacation, next year or whatever. Once you
Mhm.
got it fully funded, go out to dinner, like go out to a nice dinner. Like
Right.
don't go to Applebee's and get the 2 for 22. Like, no, I'm like, but I'm just saying, like, celebrate,
Yeah.
do something,
Yeah.
but
And budget that in.
and budget that in. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, hey,
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for joining me
Yeah.
this week. I really do appreciate it. I want to thank everyone out there for listening. And please like, subscribe, follow wherever you get your podcast. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Really would appreciate it. Please like and follow. Hit the bell on YouTube. You'll get notified whenever a new episode drops. And please share with anyone else that you think would find value. And we will see you next time on the Extreme Personal Finance Show. See ya.
Bye.